Yeah, well, this is great. Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure.
How long have you been is it dean or president?
It's president and dean and
Okay.
professor of law at Cooley for 6 and about half years.
6.5 years. And where did you come from?
Formerly, I was the associate dean of academic support at Texas A&M University School of Law, of course.
So quite a bit different than Lansing, Michigan.
Yeah, a lot different. But, I'm originally from Providence, Rhode Island, so this climate here is much more what I'm accustomed to.
Right.
Texas is just way too hot.
In the academic world, dean and president and provost, there's a lot of different titles, right?
Sure.
And dean means what?
So dean is usually the head of like a discipline like law. You're the head of the law school.
Right.
And at a university, the dean wouldn't also be the president.
Right.
But since we're a standalone, we need a president and we need a dean. And we've tried it both ways in the past. We had a person who's the president and a person who's the dean. And it really doesn't make any sense. It really, for an independent school, one person can do both jobs and get done more efficiently.
So at Michigan State, they have a bunch of deans.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Each college, right. College of Communications has a dean, or the business school has a dean, and
College of Law, yeah.
College of Law, and then they have a president that oversees the whole thing. Now, what would a provost be?
So provost is kind of like the wrangler for all of the deans. They make the president has the final say on everything, but the provost handles all the academics. The president is, of course, over the provost, but also has to handle, like, for Michigan State, it's like handle a city, with all of the logistics and the buildings, and so it's more like a CEO than.
And you have a law degree, I assume, right?
Yes.
But not a PhD.
I do not. I have my typical JD.
Right.
I also have an MPH, a Master's of Public Health, because my early history, I was doing some public health activism, and so I got my public health degree.
So I don't have to call you doctor.
You do not.
And we're sort of in the same. I have a JD as well, as you know, but from Cooley. But
which reminds me,
you got a pin for me?
Yes, I do.
There you go.
Perfect. Well, look
It's
great.
the first time anybody's given me a gift on the show. Usually they go the other way. So I was on the board at Cooley for 9 years, and I think somebody told me that when a university or college has multiple campuses, if you're head of that campus, I thought they called those people the provost, but there was a title that was different than dean or president.
Right. Some not Cooley, but some university systems have chancellors as well. So and so with multi-campus systems, there might be a chancellor over the a number of the deans.
And Cooley has multiple campuses, right?
We do, but we just have at one point we had 5.
Right.
And when I got here, it was 4. And because we needed to shrink the size of the school, we ended up closing 2 more. So we have 2 now. And I think one president and dean is enough for 2 campuses.
And the other campus is in Florida.
That's right, in Tampa.
Right. And how often do you get down there?
I made a commitment to be there 1 week every month.
Oh, wow.
It's a lot easier to do in the winter.
Right. So you know how this format is. We spend a little bit of time on your background growing up, your family, and then, how you got into, in this case, the law profession. And, so where are you now? So tell us about, were you brought up in Providence or someplace else?
I was. I was born in Providence, Rhode Island, and my family, except for some short trips, stayed there. Mm-hmm. I stayed there till I enlisted in the Air Force when I got out of high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Was not what you would call an ideal student in high school. And
meaning, usually when they say that, they either got in trouble or didn't do well academically, and usually it's a little of both.
I was going to say it's strongly both. Yeah. No, earlier on, I actually skipped a grade. I wasn't like bad at academics. I just kind of lost interest in high school, let's just say. And I think a lot of it had to do with the fact I was struggling with the idea of coming out as a gay person. And I didn't know how to express it then. That was a long time ago. There was no will and grace. There was no,
Tell me when that would have been.
I guess it was about years, like in the early 70s.
Early 70s, yeah.
Early
so
70s.
it was a tough time.
different time.
You want to make sure you have that mic sort of close. I don't know if we're picking it up.
Are we
or
okay?
not.
Yeah.
There we go.
I feel like I'm thundering in my
Yeah.
head. Yeah, no. The only thing that we heard about gay people was, that they were, going to hell, and they're just really bad people overall.
Right.
And right after I enlisted in the Air Force, a guy named John Matlovich, he came out as gay, and he was in the Air Force. He had all these medals from Vietnam, and they kicked him out for being gay. And so he had this famous saying that, they gave me medals for killing a man, and they,
Kicked me out for loving one. Yeah. Tell me about Providence.
So Providence, I love it. And, when I go back now, it's a completely different city. It's a little bigger than Lansing, I think. It's also the capital of Rhode Island. And it's just really nice. It's got really great access to the beaches in Rhode Island. Rhode Island has the most shoreline of any state in the per square mile of any state in the Union.
Oh, really?
And so a lot of great beaches. 40 minutes from Boston if you need a bigger city. And it's a 2.5, 3-hour train ride to New York City.
My thought is that it's not a perfect city.
Oh, no.
It has its sense of maybe crime, or it has sort of a dark side to it. Is that true? I mean, maybe in a good way,
So I don't, a lot of people think there are a lot of mafia family connections there. And, this got a great Italian-American community, so you can get fantastic Italian food. There's a section of town called Federal Hill where some people do not speak English still. It's just very Italian, and it's a great place. You feel like a tourist when you go there. But we had a mayor once who was sent to jail. He had his bodyguard hold someone down while he beat him with a glass ashtray.
That's kind of
That's pretty bad. And then he got out of jail, ran for mayor again, and won.
sounds like the Detroit days with Kwame and the.
I've heard comparisons. He also, though, the Providence River goes right through Providence, and it had at one point the world's widest bridge.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was like 5 or 6 blocks long, but it's because the river, it went across the river this way instead of that way. So it was a very short bridge. It was just very wide, and he took it out. And he put in all these little stopping places, big sconces for fires, and he imported a bunch of gondolas, and he turned it into like a little Venice.
Oh, really?
And it's still there. And they have this fire dance or something occasionally. I haven't seen it a lot because I don't get to go as often as I'd like to.
Growing up in the 70s, meaning you're in the high school in the early 70s?
Right. I graduated in 75.
From high school, from high school, and are you an only child, or do you have siblings?
I have a sister.
Okay.
And I guess for a short time I had a brother. My mom didn't like to talk about it that much, but my dad I was told, was working in Germany as an engineer for the U.S. Army, and my mom was there with him, and she gave birth to my brother, who was, I guess, about a year before I was born, and he died of sudden death syndrome.
Yeah, that's too bad.
And then my dad got killed at work shortly after, and so my mom had to come back. So my mom was a very strong woman. She managed to raise me and my sister by herself until she remarried when I was about 15 years old. So
your father died, and you never really knew him.
No, he died 2 months before I was born.
So when your mom was pregnant with you.
And this is my favorite story about my dad because I never met him, is that when I was 50 years old, I was sitting at my desk at Texas A&M, and I got a phone call, and the guy says, "Hi, my name is Joe Francis. I'm calling from the CIA." Well, I didn't tell you this yet, but I used to own a nightclub, so I know a lot of sketchy people.
Right.
And I said, "Okay, who is this? Come on." And he goes, "Oh, I told you, I'm at the CIA." And I just hung up the phone. And he called back, and I said, "Oh, hi, CIA, can I help you?" And he goes, "No, listen." And I hung up again. And I picked it up one more time, and he said, "Listen, don't hang up. I am from the CIA, and call your sister if you don't believe me." And I said, "Okay, what's going on?" He said, "Well, 50 years ago, your father was killed in an accident." And I said, "Oh." I said, "Yeah, he was working for the Army." He goes, "Well, that was his cover. He actually worked for the CIA. And I said,
Wow.
"Is my dad a spy?" He goes, "No, Dad was a technician. He was a radio man." Because that's before they had telecommunications,
right.
so everything was Morse code at that time. And I was like, I didn't believe him still. But then he invited me and my sister to a ceremony at Langley at the CIA headquarters where they put, they name his star on the wall.
Wow.
He'd already been in there because it was 50 years ago. He was number 3 in the book at that time of Book of Honor. And
What was his name?
James McGrath.
There you go.
Yeah, so when I went up there and I saw my name in the book, I was like, oh, it got chilling. And we got there late because my sister decided, she was coming from California, decided to take a red eye that morning. I'm like, oh, come the night before. You can't come. And of course, she was late. And we barely made it to the ceremony. And I said, listen, they're about to start. I want to go see that book. Let's just go up to the book, and then we'll come back here because there's no seats left. And we get up to the book, and they said, we're about to begin. Please take your seat. So I turned around, and General Tom Hayden, who was the director of the CIA at the time, is standing there. He's a lot shorter than you would expect, by the way. And right next to him was a seat that said, reserved for James McGrath, reserved for Karen Baradas, my sister. And I was just overwhelmed. And it was a beautiful ceremony. And they invite us back every year for the ceremony as they induct new people, almost always.
Untold story. Did your mom know that he was in the CIA?
Yes.
And she never told you that,
No.
obviously.
And on her deathbed, she had let something slip that I said, what are you talking about? And she goes, oh, I can't tell you because you're a blabbermouth, which is true.
What, and was he in the military before that?
He was. He served in Korea, I believe, in I want to say the Navy. He was a radio man, and that was his entree. He actually started working with the CIA before they were the CIA and continued on with the CIA.
And so, you're growing up in high school. Did you play sports at all?
I did not.
No. What were your hobbies, or what did you do?
Well, the only sport that I competed in, which is not a very rigorous physical activity, was sailing.
I was hoping you weren't going to say golf, but okay.
No golf. But sailing, I just loved it. It was really great.
Sailing, I think once you get it in your blood, you never let it go, do you?
It's true. I drive my family crazy when we take a vacation. We have to rent a boat somewhere,
right?
And they hate it.
Yeah.
They want a power boat.
So you're growing up in Providence and sort of, a turning point for America, right?
Yeah, it was a very turbulent time.
And sort of you would have been cognizant of everything going on with the civil rights movement in the 60s. I mean, you would have been young, but you would have been able to watch the news and pay attention. And obviously, you would have been alive when Kennedy got shot, but probably pretty young at the time, right?
I was, I think I was in first grade, and the day after he was shot, we all went to school, and we all assembled, and one of my friends I didn't know played the drums, was playing this thing while the guy played taps, and we all saluted the flag and got sent home.
Yeah.
That's all I remember of it.
Yeah, and then obviously older when JFK and Martin Luther King.
RFK,
Yeah. Robert Kennedy,
right.
Right. And then sort of coming of age in the high school and having your own, I assume, but you tell me, issues with not being able to fully express yourself.
Yeah. And I acted out in very strange ways. I don't want to get into the details there, but I was just on the edge of like criminal activity. Like my hijinks got out of control. Like I had a VW Beetle, and I thought it would be very funny to drive it down the corridor to the lunchroom and have it there in the morning. Like things like that.
I mean, that's legendary. I'm not sure that you would consider a criminal. I mean,
but that's okay. Maybe that was the best example of almost.
Were you popular? Did you have friends? Did you socialize?
I had a core of friends. I was involved in stereotypically, I guess, theater, and so I had a cadre of friends that we performed in the school plays and shows. And so.
Had you told your friends where you were on the spectrum of sexuality?
Not. It was really. I heard these horrible stories about people telling their friends, telling their parents, and my friend David DeVideo, he said he told his mom, and she took a plate, she took a fork, She put a knife on the table. She goes, "These are yours. Use these only. Don't use any others. And as soon as you can, you got to find another place to live." And he was 18.
That's tough.
Yeah, I'm not ready for that.
So you decide to go into the Air Force, which is, a probably a more strict
Yeah.
environment, and I assume at the time open to ideas sexually, right?
You're completely right. And that was part of the plan. I thought, this will straighten me out. Like, I tried dating women thinking I'll cultivate this interest that I don't have, which is did not work, number one. Number two, was cruel to the women who I was leading on. But when I went into the military, I thought it's kind of the first day of basic training, you get your uniforms and you get assigned a rack. And on the bed are these olive green blankets with a big U.S. on them. And the sergeant goes, "That says U.S., not us. I never want to see two of you in the same bed at the same time." And I thought, why are they worried about that? And then the next thing I know, I'm like, this was not a good idea. I'm showering with 50 other guys.
Right.
It's too much.
Common bathrooms and showers.
Yeah, it was not a good place to repress your homosexuality, let's just say that. And once I got to my first duty assignment, I was amazed how many gay people were in the military because they wanted to be around other men. I was like, and that's how I had my first experience in the military. And this was, I guess, 1977 or so. And when I got out the next year in 78, I came out to everybody. I was just like, I can't.
Did you do you think it's, I don't know if I'd call it strange, but sort of ironic that for somebody who's dedicated sort of to higher ed, that you sort of skipped college, right? You went, it was probably more common then to go from high school to the military, but.
So I always knew intellectually I could handle college, but I messed up really bad. I almost didn't graduate high school because the last year I pretty much did nothing. And I needed to pass English, and my English teacher and I did not get along well. And so I said, what do I have to do? What can I do to pass your course at this point? She goes, you need to make up this work and maybe a special project. And I did this project based on something she had done earlier. And so she had taken the song The Old Folks from Jacques Brel is Alive and Well and Living in Paris, and she put some pictures of paintings to go along with it and just showed them. And I decided that I was going to use my grandparents as the photos. And I borrowed someone's 2 projector setup. There's no video at this time. Well, there was. It was very rudimentary. And did a dissolve between them. And I used a lot of special effects. And I had her in tears.
Really?
And she gave me a D.
That sounds easy to do today, right? But back in this,
it was brutal. It was brutal. It took me a month.
Your special effects are you have like some type of camera maybe and a strobe light, right? I mean
something like that. And so there's at one point it says their little cat is dead, and I had this flash of a cat just appear, and people are like, was there a cat? What happened? Right. Yeah. So, but anyway, I graduated at a class of 803.
From your high school?
Yeah, 801. So it wasn't the worst, but I was not going to college.
Oh, that's where you fell academically.
Yeah.
But you pick, at the time, 18, everybody's saying, what are you going to do, right? Like this is your career path. And you pick a career that's really being attacked by America, right? Going into the military, we're just right out of post-Vietnam, correct?
As a matter of fact, I'm technically Vietnam era, although I never served Vietnam. On my
You're still part of the draft.
I could have been, yeah.
Yeah.
On my way over, my first assignment after school was in the Philippines, and on the way back, I was seeing all these guys that were coming back still, and a lot of them were from the Coast Guard, and I said, I thought if you enlisted in the Coast Guard,
you
be
didn't
safe.
have to.
No, we had to guard the coast over there.
Oh,
what? So that was a bad move on there. They enlisted for that very reason.
What did you do in the Air Force? I mean, did you fly or were you mechanic or
none of that? I originally signed up. If you take the Armed Service Vocational Aptitude Battery, the ASVAB, whatever score you get determines what jobs you can choose.
Oh, okay.
And at the time, they're having trouble getting people to enlist, and so they guaranteed you your job if you qualified.
Right.
So I maxed the test out, and I was looking at the test, and I went to the top to see what and the top one was linguist interrogator. And I'm like, that's
Yeah,
what I want to do.
nailed it.
And so I got sent to Defense Language Institute in Monterey, California, and I was learning Arabic.
Oh, there you go.
And
Kefik.
what's that?
Kefik. You don't. That's Arabic.
I don't know. Sorry. You'll find out in a second. So we were in for about a month, and I was learning military terms mostly, major. Right. Anyway, they sat us down and they said, "Listen, we've got some good news and some bad news. The good news is your security clearances all came through." I said, "But now we can tell you what your job really is." I'm like, "No, we're linguist interrogators." They said, kind of, but we can't really tell you what you actually do. And they laid it out, and I was like, it sounded like the most boring job ever. And I just like, I don't really want to do that. And they said, well, for the next 3.5 years, that's what you're doing. I'm like, okay, great. And one of the guys behind me, whose dad was a lawyer, said, I have a contract, and I'm not doing that.
Right.
And so the next day, he quit the Air Force. And I was like, wow, I can't imagine that. So I went up to my sergeant. I said, listen, it's not that I want to quit the Air Force. I just don't want to do that job.
Right.
And they said, well, that's it. And about a week later, they had so many complaints that they said, okay, we have a list of the 6 most needed jobs in the Air Force. And if you want to do one of those, you can switch. And I said, what are they? It was like truck driver, dental technician, a bunch of jobs that did not sound very good. But one of them was medical corpsman. And I'm like, it sounds good. I had dreams of, helping people out on the battlefield or something. And so they got sent back to school for that. And then I got sent to the Philippines.
As a medical corpsman.
Yeah.
Meaning what? You were like an EMT?
Not really. Although, in the Air Force, you mostly work in one of their hospitals. The Air Force pretty much sets up like bases that are cities, all for the support of the planes. And so like 2% of the people fly anything. There's a lot of support that goes behind it, mechanics and feed them, veterinary services.
Navigators, yeah.
Yeah, so I was one of those people. And so my job was in the hospital. I just worked in a clinic. I ended up working in the dental clinic for a while because they needed help there. But if you work there long enough, you can get different specialties to become kind of like a paramedic, but not really. But even when you're just out of an 8-week school, you do things that usually only nurses can do because you don't need to be licensed in the military. So you're drawing blood and giving injections and things that
not stitching
probably
anybody
shouldn't be
up.
done by 18-year-olds.
You never saw any service active. Were you ever in a?
There was no conflicts the entire time I was in the military. I was very lucky.
Yeah, that's great.
So the most military thing I did was we were part of a tactical hospital that was ready to go at any time. So we went from the Philippines to Thailand, set up in a little village there.
In case you needed to be moved someplace.
Just to show we could do it, and then we treated local people that had some medical needs.
What? So you get your whatever your term ends in 78.
Yeah. Well, I moved back to the States. When I finished my tour at the Philippines, I got sent to Washington D.C. and I had just had an experience with another airman who I was really infatuated with, and he decided that even after we've been kind of together for a while, that he was going to renounce his homosexuality and be a better Christian,
get married
right away. And he did. Like a week later, he was married.
Wow.
And so I was like very confused. And I thought, well, if he can do it, maybe I should do it. And I went to D.C. and was it like a 9-to-1 ratio between men and women there? Or, maybe even higher, yeah. And so, but he was a very attractive guy, and so when he asked someone, they're like, "Oh yeah, I'll take this."
Right.
But DC had a very vibrant gay community, and I kept seeing it in my periphery, and I was like, So I called the gay and lesbian hotline, helpline, whatever it was called. And I said, how do you know if you're really gay and not? And he goes, listen, pal, it's like 2:30 in the morning. You're calling this line, you're gay, get over it. I called him back the next night. I said, that was not very helpful. And so he gave me some ideas. He goes, why don't you go to this gay club and, go early. They open at like 9 o'clock. And, but it doesn't really get busy till about 10:30 or 11 o'clock. So go early, get a drink, make yourself comfortable, and just wade in a little bit. Because if you go at like 11 o'clock, it's crazy. It's packed. So I said, okay. And so I went at around 9:15, and I was there at like 8:55 because I just wanted to get there.
Right.
But I went. There was nobody there, and so I'm having a drink. I'm talking to the bartender, and people start trickling in, and all of a sudden, it's packed, and I was so overwhelmed. All I could see was this exit sign at the other side of the building. I just walked right out, and people are very friendly. There's no reason to be afraid, but I don't know what it was, and I just kept trying to connect, and finally, I wanted to move off base, and I saw these roommate notices. And this guy says, gay roommates, if you're looking for gay roommates. And so I went and talked to them, and it was a really great situation because the guy.
But you're in the Air Force.
Yeah, but you get free housing on base.
Yes.
But if you want, you can live off base.
Yes, but you can't be openly gay, right?
Right. So that's why I thought.
But but there's a housing notice that says what?
Well, it's in a gay newspaper.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But well, hang on. It gets worse. But it was owned. These brownstones, and it was owned by this gay guy who was like a GS 14 or something. He made a lot of money,
right.
And he liked to have younger gay men in his house. And he kept thinking that would be like an entree to like whatever,
right.
But it never happened. My other roommate's name was Clay, who honestly was a potter. He did pottery. His name was Clay. That was fortunate. And he kind of introduced me to other people. 2 doors down was a major in the Army who owned the house, and he called him a houseboy. It was kind of like his younger boyfriend.
Right.
But he just kind of took care of him, and he took care of the house, that kind of thing. And the two houses had keys to each other's house, and we had parties at each other's place.
Wow.
And that's how I was really introduced to the gay scene. It's also how I was introduced to an investigation on Mark the Major, who worked at the Pentagon. I was working at a dental clinic in Washington, and this guy came in. He goes, "You look familiar." And I said, "Well, I don't know where I know you from." And he goes, "No, I'll get it." And my dentist that I was assisting was doing a root canal, so you come back multiple times.
Right.
And the next time he came back in, he said, "Do you know Mark so-and-so, a major in the Army?" I said, "Yeah, I've heard of him." And he has a picture of me on his lap. And I was like, it was a joke. It was like, I'm Santa Claus, come over here. It was nothing sexual at all. It was just silly. And I said, yeah. I said, he goes, well, do you want to explain this? And I said, yeah, it was a party, and he was playing Santa Claus. And he said, well, he's under investigation for, not being homosexual, engaging in homosexual acts. And I said, well, I wouldn't know anything about that. And he goes, if I were you, I would go get a lawyer. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Why? Because it's a crime?
Yeah.
And you're still in the Air Force?
I'm still in the Air Force. And it's not a crime to be homosexual. It's a crime to engage in homosexual acts. And so I went to the base legal office, and the first thing he told me, which stuck with me, was that I don't work for the commander of this base. I work for the commander of a base in like Nebraska or something. He goes, that's so he has no control over me. So you can say what you want. He can't order me to do anything. But so you can feel free to say anything you want. And he said, he told me that, I told him the story. He goes, well, if you have engaged in homosexual acts, I'd really rather not know about it. But if you have homosexual tendencies, I think I can help you. I think I can get you out of the Air Force and still, with at least a general, probably an honorable discharge. Because I had a couple medals. I had done pretty well. And I said, okay. And so we talked about what were going to happen. And I had to go to my hospital commander, who was in charge of all the medical and dental clinics. And I had to report to him and say, Captain, I have to report to you that I have homosexual tendencies. And he goes, oh, Jesus. He's like the third one this month. I was like, what? It didn't feel very special. But he said, okay, well, thank you very much. We'll.
And you're 25-ish?
No, I'm like 21.
21, yeah.
Remember?
Oh, yeah, 75, 78, yeah.
Yeah. And the drinking age was 18 at the time because the people that were drafted said, you can draft me to go to war, but I can't have a draft beer, right? And then so it became 21 later on again. So I went back to work, and I said, you know what? I'm going to tell my good friends what happened. So, people I worked with, I told my doctor, and I said, so I don't know when, but I guess I'll be leaving soon. And I just kept working. And then it was a month later, 2 months later, 3 months later, I said, I guess they completely forgot.
Right.
And so I'm at work one day, and there's this big news thing, and my doctor he was a forensic dentist, and he had done dental identifications of this big airplane crash in Tenerife, and that's the only way they could identify the bodies. And he was deployed. He said, yeah, we're going to Dover Air Force Base. I said, what's going on? He goes, these nuts killed themselves in the jungle in Guyana, and we've got to go identify the bodies because they're all.
Was that the Jones?
That's the Jonestown thing.
Yeah.
So we went down, and I remember.
Did you go down there?
No, just to Dover.
Oh. Maryland.
Delaware.
Delaware.
And so one of the other branches picked them up and brought them to Dover, and they're sitting in refrigeration trucks. So when they got to us, they were icy cold. But they had been in the.
There was hundreds of people, right?
Yeah. So when they came in, the first thing they said was, "We got about 130 people coming in." I'm like, "Wow."
Kids too, right?
Yeah. Every age, and then they realized that was just the top layer. There's like almost. I forget the number.
I want to say 500 maybe.
At least. I want to say 800, but I'm probably mixing that up. But anyways, a lot of them, and the top couple of layers were really badly burnt in the sun, and so we were identifying them all as African American, but it wasn't true. We had to start looking closer, let's just say, and we were in charge of charting the teeth, my dentist and I. And so he called them out, and I charted them down, and then they compared them with other records. And my job was mostly opening the mouth, clearing it of maggots, and keeping peppermint oil on his mask and mine because the stench was just horrifying.
And apparently they didn't have driver's license on them, or they. When was that? 78 or 79?
That's 78, and I know that because not that I rehearsed this or anything.
That's the Kool-Aid.
It's the Kool-Aid. That's right. That's where we get to drink the Kool-Aid from.
Don't drink the Kool-Aid. Yeah.
So on my third day there, it took them, I think, 7 to 10 days to do this. I was greeted by some military police. So, you're wanted back on the base, and I'm not an important guy.
Right.
And they just left it at that, and then they got me in the car. They said, "Yeah, you're out of here today. So we got to go get you to your dorm. Everything you own." I still had a dorm room, even though I didn't live there. And get everything you own. You got to get it off base before sundown. I'm like, what's that? I felt like it's the old West. Like, you got to be out of town by the sundown.
Was there a congressperson killed in that as well at the airport?
They shot him because he was going to go back and tell the world.
Yeah.
If only they had cell phones then. So I went back, and I had to pack up, and I did get an honorable discharge. But they for whatever reason, they take away your medals.
But that was it. That was
it. Bye. Thank you very much. I got my pay that I hadn't for vacation I didn't take, but that was it. And so I called my mother. I said, surprise.
21, 22 years old. Does she know you're?
So I hadn't told my mother yet. And so I told her, it was like, I think it was just a few days before Christmas. I said, I'm supposed to get out next year. So they asked if we want to get out early for Christmas. And I said, yes. That was my big Pinocchio moment there.
Your sister know?
My sister was, I don't think she knew at the time. And I remember when I did tell her, she was just like, oh, okay. And like changed the conversation. I was expecting this like interrogation, but it didn't happen. And when I told my mother, I had, it was another year or two after I got out of the military, and I was still in Rhode Island. And I had introduced you to a couple of people I was dating, and I thought for sure she knew. And one day I just said, listen, this elephant in the room, I just feel like you know, but I just have to, confirm that. And I don't want to keep lying to you. I have to tell you, I think you know, I'm gay. And she goes, oh, I knew. I said, oh, good. And then she broke down in tears. She goes, I didn't know. And it took her some time to get, comfortable with it. But,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I feel like this whole question is about me being, this whole podcast about me being gay.
Well, it goes where it goes.
It goes, yeah.
But so you're 21, 22. You have some military experience.
Yeah.
You're not in college. Do you have a?
Luckily, while I was in the Philippines, while I was in Washington, I went to school at night.
Oh,
And I
okay.
had pretty much a 4.0. I was,
Where?
killing it. University of the Philippines.
Okay.
Los Angeles Community College overseas held classes in Clark Air Base at the time, and then in Washington D.C. as another community college. Name escapes me for the moment, but I had a bunch of credits, and I decided to go back to school.
What are you studying, or what is the instigation to go to school? Like, I mean, was that?
Well, okay. To be brutally honest, I saw the caste system between enlisted and officers, and I was treated like crap. And officers were like, just treated like
Royalty.
Yeah, exactly. And I said, how do you get to be an officer? So I had to look it up, and of course, you had to have a college degree. And I applied to the Coast Guard Academy and to the Naval Academy for admission. That was one other way to get there, and I rejected by the Navy. Coast Guard, I was accepted, and they sent me to get a physical, and my eyesight was not correctable enough for the Coast Guard. So I did not get to go.
So your only way to become an officer would have been get a degree.
Get a degree, and then when my enlistment was up to apply, I didn't really think that far ahead, to be honest with you, but I knew I couldn't be, and I thought it wouldn't hurt to have a degree anyway. So I was doing all of the basic courses that you need for any discipline, really.
Right.
Like
General
stuff, yeah.
General studies.
And when I got out of the military, I did go to Rhode Island College. And
is that RISD or not?
No, RISD is Rhode Island School of Design, which an amazing school.
Right.
But Rhode Island College.
That's Wedding Crashers.
Yes.
RISD, yeah.
Right. That's it. Yeah, David Byrne and Talking Heads and a lot of famous people out of there. But I was studying theater.
Is that in Providence?
Yeah.
The school you went to?
Yep, both.
Okay.
And RISD's right downtown next to Brown University, which is a great school, which I was rejected to.
That's where JFK Jr. went to Brown, right?
Pardon me?
JFK Jr. went to Brown.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a little story about that too.
But are you able to go are you paying for it yourself, or?
I am, but it was pretty cheap at the time.
Was it?
Yeah. And
we
I
didn't
had veterans benefits, number one.
Okay, we didn't have a GI Bill though, right?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, so
So I had some help there, and because I was going back to college, because my dad had died in the service of his country, and I think you get this anyway with Social Security, I had my mother received benefits for a dependent child up until I was in the Air Force. But when I got out of the Air Force, I was only 21, going back to school. And so I was able to get them until I was like 23 or something. So it was a pretty good deal.
Right.
So I didn't really pay that much for college.
I remember when I went to Michigan State, which was like 83 or 84, I think it was $65 a credit hour.
Yeah.
$75. I mean, my sisters were there at sort of the same time, and they were able to waitress and pay for their tuition. We were on terms at Michigan State, so it was like $900 a term. It was not like it's become unbearable today, but it's, not something you can do tending bar really.
Not anymore.
But so, sort of self-motivated, right? And you sort of, whether you did good in high school, you sort of figured out,
I had to fix that, yeah.
My trajectory is only going to go to where I want to be if I get a degree, right?
Exactly.
Because what did your mom have a bachelor's degree? I mean,
No. And my dad did, and my sister got an associate's degree, and she was doing it in fashion design.
right.
And associate's degree in fashion design does not get you much in
That's-
terms of a job.
yeah.
She started doing graphics for somebody, and then she dated and then eventually married a physical therapist who convinced her to go back to school, become a physical therapy assistant, which pays pretty well for.
But nobody around you is
No.
promoting the benefits
Education.
of
No,
higher
no.
ed, right?
No, I think my sister was the first person in my family to get a degree.
Wow.
So I never knew my dad's side of the family until I went to that CIA ceremony.
Yeah.
And because my mom had a breakup with the family. My grandmother, apparently, who I never met, thought my mother was a gold digger. She met my father in Washington, D.C. She went there to become a secretary.
I got you.
And that's probably why she was there. I don't know, to get a man.
What
but
about your stepfather?
my stepfather, Joe Kowalski? Really nice guy. Never really warmed up to me. I was kind of a crazy.
Did he promote higher ed or
he did.
education? Okay.
Yes, and but my mom and him were not. They were kind of still together, but not living together a few years
Okay.
later. So he was not really in my life for very long.
Yeah, I got you. So you're just sort of going through life without a true vision.
Yeah, I
mean,
didn't really have a plan.
I mean, if somebody would have asked you at that time when you're 21 or 22, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Well, I would have told you I want to be an actor, and so
Oh, 'cause you
I was
did
going to
that.
school for theater, and really enjoyed it. And I was in my, I want to say second year, and they held auditions for this theater troupe called the Looking Glass Theater, and you can find stuff about them. They have a couple books written about them. They were experimental and improvisational, and they toured all around New England. And I just loved the idea of it. So I went and auditioned, and I surprised myself. I got a part in it. So job in theater, degree in theater. I thought, well, I'll take the job. And so it paid pretty much minimum wage, but we had very nice schedules. We did really intensive rehearsals for a couple of months, and then we toured around. And we might have 1 or 2 shows a day, and the show's like an hour long.
What are you studying when you study theater at the college level?
A lot of things, like you want to study, the writing for the theater, writing for film. I studied film as well because I didn't know really what medium I wanted to work in. You do acting classes. You take classes in costuming, set design, lighting, because not everybody in the theater wants to be an actor. Some of them want to do all the other stuff. You have to have a very rounded kind of preparation, because they don't want actors that are like, "Why are you doing all this stuff?" But they want you to know about the lighting and the
I
sets as
took
well.
I took a movie class at Michigan State.
Yeah,
And I walked in, and I wasn't, I feel like it was a night class, and I wasn't a scary movie guy. And I remember it's the first time I saw Psycho,
oh yeah,
and I had to walk home
in the dark.
in the dark
Oh, yeah.
across campus, and I thought, holy moly, what a!
Yeah.
And that's a Hitchcock, and they went through the analysis of the movie and the filming and the stuff he did, and the
Shower sequence.
the shower sequence, and how he actually filmed that photograph. That's a photograph that he filmed with her on the floor, and it's an interesting study. But that's if you don't go into acting. Although Feiger, I think, studied drama, and he's was one of the leading trial attorneys in
Yeah.
the state has ever seen. But what do you do with that? What do you?
Right. It's not really like a very useful degree. I mean, most actors, I don't think have famous actors. I don't think most of them. A lot of them do. Like they went to
Right.
Juilliard or something,
Right.
some very famous school. And I didn't really have a plan. Was the problem?
Right.
So I'm doing my children's theater thing and making minimum wage. And during the summer, you're laid off, so you can collect, unemployment. It's kind of an easy life,
Right.
but not very. So I'm kind of supporting myself at night. I'm being a DJ at nightclubs, and Looking Glass Theater was doing this festival at this on a weekend and kids in general were just there. It wasn't at a school. And I'm up there, and I'm singing this silly song, and there's guys out there heckling me, like these older guys. I'm like, what's it's a kid show. What are you doing here? And turns out they were in a band. And they said, yeah, you kind of suck, but we're looking for a singer. Do you want to sing with us? I'm like, sure. What kind of music do you do? And I thought, what do you play Eagles, or you're like a hard rock band? What do you? And they wrote their own songs. And I'm like, oh, okay, let's see. And they were very silly songs. I kind of liked the idea, and so I auditioned with them. And then next thing I know, I'm in a band at night instead of. Well, I was still doing DJ, but mostly doing the band. And I did a couple seasons with Looking Glass Theater, and then I put everything into the band. We put out a record that was just, let me just say, horrible.
Yeah.
We were kind of a comedy band, and people loved us on stage. We're kind of fun. We actually opened for REM a couple of times.
Steve Martin put out a record too,
Yeah.
not too long.
But he's a good musician. We realized we were a funny band,
Yeah.
but not the best songwriters.
It wasn't a comedy routine. It was a music album.
Yeah, so if you buy, I think maybe if we were like 20 years later and we could have done video,
Right.
it might have been better. But we had very silly things on stage. Like we had what we called the lamoscope. And getting back to my slideshow kind of thing, we would put up pictures, rare projection of things that were going on in the song to help them to understand why it's funny, and sometimes lyrics, sometimes crazy stuff. And we had a flat set up because my theater background. We brought a theater flat with us, and it had a window in it, and it had a window shade. And I put up the window shade, and in the middle of the summer, of course, it's a picture of Providence, and it's snowing. We have the snow falling down. And then, in the winter, it'd be like a beach scene, like stupid stuff like that. But people appreciate you doing anything like that. And really ridiculous songs about industrial accidents, the cult that worships Kitty Carlisle. It's stupid, really stupid, but fun. And when that was kind of, and then I decided to open my own rock and roll nightclub. And it would only have original bands. And I was working for
in Providence.
In Providence, I was working at a club that wasn't doing so well, and they decided to close it. And on closing night, everybody's drinking too much, and I was like railing about how it was mismanaged. If I was running this place, and he's standing behind me, and no one's telling me. Everybody's saying, "Yeah, tell me more, tell me more." And he goes, "Oh, if you think you could do it, I'll sell you my liquor license." And that's a big thing in Providence. There's a finite number of them. You need one.
Right.
And so. I had, when I got out of the military, I'd heard about these abandoned houses that you could buy for like $1 if you're willing to fix them up and live with them in them for 5 years. And I had done that. And it was pretty much finished. And so I sold it. And I bought the liquor license. And I opened my own nightclub. It took like a year. It was awful. It was the worst experience of my life trying to do it because I was undercapitalized.
Right.
Borrowed a lot of money that I wasn't sure I could ever pay off. And so I opened my own nightclub. And so I'm doing this. Our bass player became an air traffic controller. And so the band kind of slowly fell apart. And part of the reason I wanted the club was so we'd have a place to play. But, and then...
are you graduated from college? Yeah.
No, I never went back after the Looking Glass Theater thing.
Yeah.
And so, I put off my education. And I use this as a... when I was teaching torts, I used this as a final exam a couple of times. Every 3 months, my club changed its decor. The club itself is all black, and the bar was emerald green, so it glowed. It looked like the Emerald City. Mm-hmm. And every 3 months, we changed the theme. The first one we did was cavemen, and so there's these big rocks and saber-tooth tigers, whatever. And then we did country western. And the great thing is everybody that worked there was a musician. So we had a house band.
Right.
And so we did Bonanza Jelly Bean for the country band, and we played country songs. It was really fun. And then for the Las Vegas night, we did a lounge band, and I was Tony Permanent. And then we did heavy metal. And heavy metal, I have this great friend. She was in a band called Belly. She's amazing. She did graphics for her father's company. And she put together this whole big press release about Hyphen, the heavy metal band that wrote all of your favorite songs. So what we did is we did all these cover songs like Ozzy Osbourne, Black Sabbath, all this.
Right.
And But we put out this press releases to the smaller newspapers that Hyphen was coming to town to do their hits, hear them done by the people who wrote them. All lies. But she had these beautiful 8x10 glossies of the band, and it says the Punctuation Tour. And I was umlaut. She was Paula Period. It was Dave Dash. It was very well done. And we usually had, I don't know, on our big openings for the big reveal for the new decor, we usually had like 400 or 500 people. That night, like 1,000 people showed up.
Wow.
We should not have let half of them in because the fire rating of the building was much lower. And because I wasn't paying a band, I got a couple hotel rooms at the really nice hotel downtown and had a limousine bring us in. And so this cameras out front, like we're really some sort of something. And we had a really great time. And it was so much fun that our guitar player, near the end of the set, decides he's going to smash his guitar. And on the side of the stage, there's this a metal pole that's holding up the building, and perfect place to smash a guitar. The machine head of the guitar flies out over the room, and as someone is walking in the door, square in the face. And no lie, 3 days earlier, signed a modeling contract.
Oh, God.
So that was a very expensive nose.
Tort.
Yeah, big tort. And my landlord, who already hated me, who was a lawyer, but never practice, he owned a radiator shop.
Yeah.
I don't know why, next door to us. And when they found out how little insurance I had, I thought it was a lot because I had a high school degree, as you recall. They decided he was on the hook because it was place of public admission.
Oh, okay.
And as the landlord, he could not absolve himself of responsibility if he had any reason to know it was dangerous. And we both got sued. And he ended up becoming a personal injury lawyer, by the way.
Wow.
I ended up saying, they let me stay open, but I was like, there's no future in this. I need my degree. Yeah. So I gave the business to my employees. I said, you figure it out. You figure it out.
You walk
I'll
away.
support you.
Yeah.
And they ran it for about 3 months. It was falling apart. And they found someone who was willing to take it over. And he paid off all the existing debts and still made a fortune on it. He knew what he was doing.
That's great.
And so it stayed open for another like 8 or 9 years.
But what do you do then?
So I was like, Now, on the side of this, which I didn't get to yet, I'm not Forrest Gump, but this gets a little crazier in a minute here. So during this time, while I have the nightclub doing all this stuff, the AIDS crisis hits. And
what are we in the early 80s?
The 80s, 83 or 4, yeah. And so the AIDS crisis hits, and, all of a sudden, people I know are dropping dead. And I'm like, what the hell? And they're young men, and it was very disconcerting. They called it gay cancer at first.
Scary.
Yeah, it's very scary. And then they called it gay-related immunodeficiency disease, and finally AIDS, acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. And now we just call it HIV disease. But this was happening to people I knew, and so I joined these local activist groups so what can we do? We were trying to raise money. And we realized raising money for medical research, it's not like tens of thousands of dollars, it's millions.
Right.
We didn't have that. So I became more vocal in gay and lesbian activism and in AIDS activism. And the AIDS activism was mostly just taking care of people to help them die more comfortably.
Most people think of it as something that was occurring in California on the West Coast and in New York, right? Because of the prominence of it. But
there's the hot epicenters. And remember, Providence is just a couple hours away from New York. So a lot of people go to New York a lot. And so there was a lot.
And really in places outside of New York, it wasn't necessarily accepted in New York or California, but outside of there, you really had to lie about what you were suffering from, right?
I remember one of the big jokes of the time was it was hitting, for whatever reason, the Haitian community and gay men. And so the big joke was, how are you going to tell your parents you're Haitian?
Right.
So anyway, we had a lot of angry people, and some students from Brown and RISD decided to form a local ACT UP organization. AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power, to pressure the government to do its job to help people with this disease and help prevent it. And so I said, well, you guys can meet at my club, because we've been having benefits there for people, and people knew this. It wasn't a gay club, by the way. It was a straight club, but we had a gay night, and so people knew we had something going on there. So we started doing activities in Providence. So ACT UP does nonviolent civil disobedience, and the point of nonviolent civil disobedience is to get arrested. So you bring attention to your cause.
Right.
You get a big media watching you, so you really get to spread that message widely.
Right.
And so we took over the governor's office in Providence, Rhode Island, and I've got videos of it.
Who was the governor?
It's very funny. Pardon me?
Who was the governor?
Oh
I
my
mean,
goodness.
that was no small task. I mean, even back then, they must have had some security, right?
Oh yeah, they did. Well, we dressed up very nicely. We all put on suits, and we got really close to the office. He wasn't there at the time. We didn't know that.
Right.
We just walked in and sat down, and then it took about an hour for the state police to get enough people there, and enough troopers there to.
So you got arrested.
Yeah, that was the point. And he
You
came,
got arrested.
Pardon me?
You got arrested.
Yes, that was the first of my 13 eventual arrests.
Really?
Yeah, doing ACT UP. So there was some question as to whether or not I could actually become a lawyer.
For sure.
Yeah, and but they were all nonviolent civil disobedience,
Right.
and never convicted. By
Never convicted.
No, but they gave us one more opportunity. You stand up and walk out, everything's fine. Otherwise, we're going to book you, and you're going to need $25 to get out. I'm like, all right, sounds fair. So I stayed with it, and they made a big mistake. Is they were trying to humiliate us, and they strip searched us, the men and the women, and the women sued. I didn't know how to do that. And I didn't really care that much. I wasn't that bad, but they treated us pretty badly. And then we had a lot of other actions going on, and a couple that we didn't get caught with, which was nice. But I also joined ACT UP New York, and I got arrested taking over the borough's Welcome headquarters offices.
Wow.
Yeah, and so my little brush with greatness here is we knew we were going to get arrested, and we knew because we're out of state, it was going to be very expensive to post bail. So Keith Haring, the artist, wrote out $10,000 worth of traveler's checks for each one of us to get out if we needed them. Wow. And so I was like, can I just save one of these with your signature on it? Because I just, but no. And indeed, we used them. But he got his money back. So
Good, because you posted bond, and then the case eventually gets dismissed.
it got dismissed.
And then they get the bond money back.
That's right. So there was. I'm glad I have a lawyer. There was 6 of us that got arrested there, and three of the crew had HIV, and were asking to get access to their medications.
Do you feel like the protests resulted in, obviously awareness, but did it cause more dollars to be put to the cause by
I
Rhode
believe
Island?
that 100%. It really it let people know that the drug companies. The first thing that happened was AZT was the first drug that was approved to treat HIV, and it was costing $10,000 per person per year, which at the time was I think 8 or 10 times more than any other drug that's ever been developed. And because people who were getting it could not afford it, the U.S. government is pretty much paying for it. So we're trying to point this out to politicians that you're getting screwed by these drug companies.
Right.
And so we did that big demonstration, and we did when the first thing we did. I can't remember the order now, but we also took over the New York Stock Exchange, the balcony where they announced.
Yeah.
We took it over to point the fingers at Borough's Welcome, saying, I don't know if this has to be G-rated, but we had little fake $100 bills that on one side said, "Fuck your profiteering, people are dying." And we 10 seconds before the bell, we all had air horns. We let the air horns out, and it was very loud. It was deafening in there. And people looked up. We had chained ourselves to the balcony, and no one heard the bell. And then we threw out the bills, and people were enraged. And they were coming up the stairs to kill. They wanted to get us, and we're locked in. We don't have the keys. We had a guy that had a camera that he smuggled in there because you're not supposed to take pictures in there. And he had the keys, and he got out, but without the camera. So we don't really have any pictures from inside. But I was never so happy to see the police in my life because they had keys and they stopped the other guys from killing us. But we had effectively stopped trading for, I think, a couple of minutes. It's the only time it's ever happened.
Wow.
Yeah. And the Burroughs Welcome was really embarrassed by this. And they said, I don't know why they're doing this. They keep attacking us. We had already planned to bring the cost down by $3,000. Like at both times they said,
Is that sort of the precursor to the Matthew McConaughey movie where he can't get the drugs and somehow is doing I don't know if you're familiar with
No. So people from ACT UP are doing that where they're getting the drugs from other countries.
Right.
That's happening. So ACT UP, we have the political action committees and people doing this stuff. We have another group that saved lives. They're amazing. The treatment group. The treatment group, most of the people there had HIV and were very motivated. And there's a number of them still alive today. Mm-hmm. They worked really closely with Dr. Anthony Fauci, who originally was not very helpful.
A lot of criticism about his endorsement of AZT.
Yeah. Well, and, they worked on something called parallel tracking. Like normally in a drug trial, you have to have some people that get the drug, some people that don't. There was no time for that. And people were dying, and AZT was extending lives. People did not want to be in the control group. Right. And so they came up with another type
the placebo group.
Exactly. Did not want to be. So the drug and treatment group with Dr. Fauci invented something called parallel tracking, where you can have your drug test, but let us do ours as well, where everybody gets it. And I'm not sure exactly how it works. I'm not part of this, but it became the way of testing these drugs as they came out. And ACT, when it first came out, they were giving doses that were way too high. They didn't need to be that high.
Right.
And we were pointing things out that Burroughs Welcome was like, well, it's $10,000 because it's so expensive for us to do this research and develop this drug. And it turns out that it had been shelved like 10 years earlier as an anti-cancer drug because it was too damaging to the human body. Yeah. So they were just exposing their lives, getting this in front of the cameras. And I really think it made a big difference. But even if you don't buy that, the parallel tracking definitely saved.
What year? How old are you now?
I guess this is like around 83 to 90. I'm very, very active. And I remember the date because that's when I went back to school finally. So like the 90s, like 33.
And by the late 80s, that's when everybody is sort of aware of, in fear of getting AIDS, right?
Yeah.
I mean, heterosexual and homosexual.
Mm-hmm. At first, it's a big joke, like, oh, let the gays, and then all of a sudden it's spreading.
Because I think Magic announced in October of --
That's right.
I think it was. I spoke the other day. I said, if you're from Lansing, one of the dates you always remember. For me, it's that day that Magic said he had AIDS, and it was like, because he grew up here and we've always looked up to him, it was like, oh my God.
Yeah. If he can get it, anybody.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
But so you go back to school in 90. Where do you go back to school?
So, again, while I'm in ACT UP, we realized it's not just gay men anymore. It's people of color who are disproportionately hit, and especially gay people of color. And we're trying to do outreach with needle exchange. Mm-hmm. A lot of the disease was not just with sex, but with needle use, and people shared needles.
Right.
So we were doing our own needle exchange. Like we would bring clean needles in, and we had trouble communicating with the Latino community, and there was not many activists who were doing this. So I heard about this school in Guatemala. You go there for 6 weeks. You can get basic kind of Spanish skills. It's immersion, total immersion. It was $100 a week. You got 20 hours of instruction per week, and you live with this family that did not speak English. And they gave you food and everything. So I went and did that. And it was great. And I had, very rudimentary Spanish, but enough to swap needles.
Right.
And then as my clubs, I decided I'm going to give it up. I need a new plan.
Right.
So my plan was to go back to Guatemala, and I'm gonna go to that school again for maybe, 3 or 4 months and really sharpen my skills. So I go back and I get involved. So on Friday afternoons at this school, you do 5 hours a day of instruction for 4 days, one-on-one, $100 a week, room and board. And then on the 5th day, you go to the local hospital and you volunteer. And what that means is you just chat with the patients who have nobody visiting them. And when I say hospital, I mean a place with beds where people go to die. It's not like a modern hospital. It's a little town. And so I'm there, and I'm watching the nurse come down the line, and she's giving everybody a shot from the same needle. And I'm like, now my Spanish is still not that good. I've only been back for a week. And I'm trying to tell the director that this is.
Yeah.
He goes, well, luckily he spoke English. HIV is a disease of your country, not mine. I said, oh, now it is. But, people like me, a lot of people travel here, right?
Right.
And so this is very dangerous. He's like, don't worry about it. It's okay. And so I thought this is the time to nip this in the bud. So I went to a whole bunch of different places. And I grew up in a Catholic family, and I'm not a very religious man. I call myself a recovering Catholic. I don't really subscribe to that religion. No problem. I love my Catholic family. But I went to Catholic Charities as a last resort, and they put me in touch with these medical students who were doing kind of some of this public health outreach. Yeah. And so I first got introduced to the word public health, and they were going to go around teaching people how to clean their needles and instruct them not to share them and that kind of stuff. And I asked them if they could add the sex element too and distribute condoms. And let's first things first. So I ended up spending most of my time with these medical students who wanted to practice their English all day. So I really didn't learn a lot of Spanish because I dropped out of the school to go touring around with these guys, kind of like touring around with the Looking Glass Theater. And the money was getting close to running out. So I said, I'm going to go visit my sister in California and decide what I'm going to do now. And I got to California. I really liked it, San Jose. And I had some money left, but I got robbed. And it's like, oh, can I stay with you for a couple of weeks? And I got a job just to get enough money to get out of there. And it's a local community college that was really well respected, Dianza Community College. And it was really cheap. At the time,
it was probably $15 a credit or $20 a credit.
Even better. They could charge no more than $100 a year per student.
Yeah.
So 3 semesters, $33, and $34. And so I'm like, I'm going. And what am I studying? Theater. I never learned my lesson.
Right.
And I had the best time ever. I ended up being it's at school though, is a touring group that goes around doing AIDS awareness. Oh, and of course, I'm like 35, 36 years old. And they're like, everybody else is 18 to 21 years old. Yeah. But I get to play all the, I played the grandfather and all this kind of stuff. But it was really great experience. And then I transferred. I tried to go to Berkeley or any other school because I had a 4.0 again. But I could not get into Berkeley, and I didn't want to move. So I went to San Jose State and got my bachelor's degree. Pardon me?
Are they Spartans?
Yeah, the Spartans as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. And so what year are we when you graduate?
I graduated from San Jose State in 1994.
Okay.
And I had studied psychology.
At what year? What age? 94, you would have been...
64.
I'm just doing
30,
it.
37?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was really interested in social psychology. I had a minor in sociology. And my whole thing was the effect of law on human behavior. Mm-hmm. And one of my advisors said, there's these JD, PhD programs you should apply for. And so Hawaii has one, Howard University had one, and Nebraska. And I got into the law program in Hawaii, but not the PhD program. Vice versa in Nebraska. Got into both at Howard. So, and it's a funded,
Howard.
Yeah, it's a funded position.
Back to DC.
So back to DC, and so the first year you go to law school, and I loved it, and I dropped out of the PhD.
Their quad there is great.
What's that?
Their quad there is great.
Oh, it's amazing.
That's where the vice president went, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
She did.
Yeah, it was funny when I was, looking for summer jobs. People would read my resume like, oh, well, this guy like 4.0 in undergrad. He's doing really well in law school. So disappointed when they saw me because
you were white,
right? Because they're coming to recruit,
Right,
diversity.
right.
And I applaud that. I think that especially then we really needed it. And so one guy comes up and he goes, look, I gotta ask you straight out. He goes, how am I gonna go back to Connecticut and say I brought back the white guy from Howard? I'm like, why are you bringing one guy? Why don't you bring a few of us?
Yeah.
And he's like, I'll give it a shot. And
Yeah.
voila, me and Bobby Arms.
You had a number of strikes against you.
Well,
because you were 35.
yeah. I
So
graduated when I
not
was
a
40.
traditional law student, intern, or law clerk, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to Howard, and you're white, right? And I assume at this point you're openly gay.
Yeah.
I mean, not something you would discuss at a job interview, but you probably didn't keep it a secret.
I actually did mention it to a couple of people. Say we're looking for diversity. I was saying I see no openly gay people on your.
Right.
It didn't work anywhere.
Right.
The really interesting thing I thought about the whole recruitment process, the on-campus recruiting, was if the person who came to the school to recruit was black, I got the second interview every time. If they were white, they'd be like, thanks for applying, except the guy from Connecticut.
Did you graduate with your PhD?
No, I dropped out after the first year of the PhD
Because you
program.
loved the law.
I love the law so much. It was so much better. It's exactly
Yeah.
what I wanted. It's actually what I was looking for. I didn't know it because it had the kind of activism and advocacy that I was doing with my public health, my grassroots public health work. You know what I mean?
Right.
I was not criminal, but I was a lot of criminal law experience. But the idea of changing laws and
Right.
using the law to help people was very appealing to me. So when I got to law school, I'm like, this is it. This is what I've been looking for.
Right.
And then I thought the acting thing might come in handy if I'm a litigator. So
Right.
let's go with this. And
So you graduate in 2000?
1997.
97.
So I'm 40 years old at that point.
Well,
And yeah,
single.
yeah.
And in the Clinton era, right?
2000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, yeah.
Yeah. It was not very political while I was in law school. I was trying
But you're in D.C.
yeah.
And,
You can't help it. Yeah.
yeah. And so then what?
So, I ended up getting that job in Connecticut, and I started working there. And
Big law firm?
medium-sized law firm, about 200 lawyers.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty big, and really good salary. And I got there, and I'm doing corporate law, and I'm like, how did this
97,
happen?
it was probably 80 grand or 70 grand or something.
Yeah, it's just about 80.
Yeah.
And at the time, that was like today.
A lot of
Someone
money.
getting 200 grand. Like,
Yeah.
right out of law school, I was like, what? And I was like, you're here because you saw those salaries. Like, what? Why are you in law school? What are you doing? And I'm like, I'm not happy. And in a big firm, it was kind of
Were you law review and all that
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of thing and moot court or no?
I didn't do moot court, but I did law review. I did an elder law clinic.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a full-time student, first time in my life. Every other time I was part-time. So it was really
You were
nice.
immersed. You were immersed.
I was
in
immersed.
the
I took advantage of
experience.
everything. So I'm hating big firm life, and I try to make the most of it. Ours was called a lifestyle firm. So people who had kids but I was still like
Where are you in Connecticut?
Hartford,
Hartford.
and really trying to make those billables.
Insurance stuff?
No, I actually did a whole variety of stuff, but a lot of my time there was Blue Cross Blue Shield of Indiana was acquiring all the other Blue Cross states.
Okay.
And so we were working on those mergers, and they're really huge and complicated. And so I did a lot of that work. some securities work. I really didn't like it. And I was getting ready for my litigation rotation. And good God, I can't believe I'm telling you all this, but what the heck? I suffered a seizure.
Oh,
And I was like, what the? I've never had a seizure in my life. And I'm like 41, 42 years old. And they couldn't find anything wrong. They said, we're going to put you on Dilantin, and you got to take this.
blood thinner? Was that what it was? Or?
No, it was something psychotropic. And it kind of leveled me out at a place that was not very, I didn't feel like I had full faculties.
Right.
My full faculties. And they didn't know what caused it. And I just said to my doctor, I said, you know what? I'd rather take a chance on having another one than to be on this drug the rest of my life. So take me off. Wouldn't do it. And so I read up on it. We had a medical library in the law firm. And it's very dangerous to come off of it with cold turkey. You'll almost definitely have a seizure. And so it had to be done carefully with the physician's oversight. And so I kept asking, kept saying no. And then I wrote him an email and I said, thank you, doctor, for agreeing that I should come off of the drug. And per your instructions, I will stop taking it tomorrow. And I got a call. He goes, you can't do that. I was like, oh, what are you talking about? You told me to do that. He goes, okay, I'll do it. I'll take you off. So I got off of it, and I got involved. Yale Hospital, they had a specialist in seizures. And I wasn't sure if my insurance would cover it, but I went down there, and she said, yeah, it could be there's a lot of things that can cause this, but we just don't know. It's
right.
And so she gave me a complete workup, and I was a pretty healthy guy. I was, moonlighting as a fitness instructor at the time. I didn't have any big health problems, and she said, "Oh, we're going to try one thing, and it's called a tilt table, and they strap you on, and you're standing straight up, and then they tilt you forward a little bit, and I'm not sure exactly what is going on physiologically." But they had me all hooked up to monitors. When I went over about 5 or 7 degrees, all the things went off, and I started to have that aura that you get before you faint. And what had happened, it turns out, is I have something called medially articulated hypotension or something like that. And if I get dehydrated and I don't have full blood volume, I get oxygen starvation to my brain. And what happens is if you're about to faint, your body tries to tell you, I'm going to faint. You get this aura, and you're supposed to sit down or do something. And what had happened to me is I was in a record store, and there's people around me, and I've never fainted before in my life, and everything's swirly. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to fall. And so instead of sitting down, I grabbed on and fought it. And my
That's
body.
what caused the seizure.
And so the neurally mediated hypotension, what that does is when you start to faint, it drops your blood pressure to get you to sit down.
I got you.
And my body just keeps doing it and doing it until I pass out, unless I can get down on the ground quickly.
Right.
So from that point on, I never had another seizure, because if I had this aura coming on, I don't care if I was in a supermarket, I would just lie down on the floor.
Right.
And they said, can I get you anything? I said, yeah, give me a water. That's all I need. Just a Gatorade would be better.
That's the importance of not becoming dehydrated, right?
Yeah. And so now I don't. I haven't had one of those again, because I just take care of my hydration. I had a housewarming party the night before. There was alcohol involved.
Yeah.
And, so.
And the importance of being an advocate for your own health, right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise you just follow the doctor's instructions and take the medication, and who knows where you'd be today.
I don't know. During this time, one of the partners came up to me and he goes, James, I don't know if I'd be so open about having a seizure. He goes, people are not keen on mental health issues. And he goes, I know from personal experience, I'm not going to tell you what it was, and please don't tell anybody, but I've kept it a secret my whole life. And I said, well, I just wanted people to be aware. I don't know. I didn't never crossed my mind. And so I had this blemish on me when I went into the litigation department. They did not like me at all. I was very well liked in the corporate side because I'm a really outgoing guy. And every Friday morning, I would take orders for all the secretaries, and I'd come in with 20 Dunkin' Donuts coffees for them. Right. And so, I try to be a good player, because I was single at the time. I got there early in the morning. I stayed late like I was supposed to, and Everything was fine. But litigation department was not warming up to me, and I felt that they were trying to, write me up on little things that were really meaningless to try to build a case against me. They
I
wanted
hate
get rid of
to.
me.
I mean, litigation can be sort of a chauvinist area, right? Like,
It might have been that too. Yeah, it had crossed my mind. So I said, I had really good friends when I was in D.C. going to law school. I had friends who were residents in anesthesia. I don't know how that happened, but we were all good friends, and we all talked about HIV and public health outreach. And a couple of them said, I'm going to go to public health school after I get out of this program. I said, what? And it sounded great. I said, I'm going to do that too. And so he said, okay, Johns Hopkins, Harvard are the number ones. If you can get into those, that's where we're going to go. We don't have to all go together.
John Hopkins in D.C. again?
Yeah, Baltimore.
Baltimore, okay.
And then, of course,
right.
and Harvard's actually in Boston, not in Cambridge.
Yeah.
And so I saw the writing on the wall. I said, I'm going to apply to Johns Hopkins this year, and I'm going to apply to Harvard. And I got into both. And Johns Hopkins was like, welcome. And I said, so what's the scholarship opportunities? And they said, oh, no, this is you pay your own way. And Harvard, they put together a little package for me that was pretty good. And one of the things on it was a scholarship because I was from Rhode Island.
Wow.
And only 2 people applied that year, and one of them was an undergrad. And they said, we decided to split it evenly between you two. And I'm like, yeah, but my tuition's a lot higher. Can we prorate it? And they said, fair enough. So it was really pretty cheap to go to
Harvard.
Harvard. It's just the tuition at the time was, this is 1999, was like 50-something thousand a year.
Wow.
And that was a lot of money. And still is, I think.
Still is, yeah.
But I think it's like 80 now, so I just keep it down. But so I went to the public health school, and it kind of wrapped up my whole activist area. But that's when I decided that what I really liked was being in school. And so I applied for a fellowship at Temple University School of Law, where I would teach legal writing and one course of my choice at the last of 4 semesters, and you'd earn your LLM.
Wow.
And it gives you some bona fides. You have to complete a thesis, so you'd have an article, so you'd be set up to get a professor's job. And so from there, I didn't get the most prestigious job. I got a job at...
But you got a LLM?
Yeah. So I got my LLM at Temple and my MPH at Harvard.
Temple's in Philly?
Yep.
Wow.
Great city.
Yeah.
And then I got my first tenure track position at Appalachian School of Law.
Where is that?
That's in rural Appalachia. It's, how Virginia is shaped. It's got a big tail out here.
Yeah.
It's about as far away as you can get from the big lump. It's like the school's like 12 miles from Kentucky, 15 miles from West Virginia.
When you're teaching...
I was teaching torts.
First year law
Yeah.
students, L1s.
Yeah.
1Ls. I
One
guess
Ls,
it was
yeah.
1Ls.
I love them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love teaching. It's one of my favorite things to do. People often ask me, you don't get to teach a lot now. I've taught a couple classes, but mostly,
We're way over our
I'm so sorry.
time. No, you're fine, but I want to so from
Probably get the coolie.
from Appalachia, where do you go?
From Appalachia, I go to Texas Wesleyan University School of Law,
Where's that?
and that's in Fort Worth, Texas.
Okay.
Texas A&M at the time did not have a law school.
And where is Texas A&M?
Texas A&M came in and bought Texas Wesleyan School of Law.
Oh, okay.
So we became Texas A&M.
In Fort Worth.
In Fort
You
Worth.
never had to move from there.
Nope.
And how do you get into administration? Is that just a fact that happens if you work at a law school long enough?
I avoided it like the plague. I had a 9-month contract where I had the summers off and I could do anything I wanted, and I loved it. And at this point, I'm married, and my husband keeps saying, why don't you become an administrator? You can make more money. I'm like, why mess up a perfectly good job?
Right.
I make more than you anyway, so let's just leave that alone. And
That always goes over well.
yeah, it really was. No, that's the kind of relationship we have. That's great. But we had a new dean coming in, and I had been for years writing memos to his 2 predecessors how our academic support was so underfunded and what we needed to do to fix it. And he got there, and he's a crazy guy. I love him to death, Andrew Morse. He just did some really wild things to really help the school get forward and set up his predecessor really well. But he says, I found all these memos. Seems to me like you're the expert in academic support, so I'm putting you in charge. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. He goes, oh, I'm not asking. And I said, well, he said, think about how this would be beneficial for both of us. And I said, okay. And I said, if you'll make me the associate dean of academic support instead of like the director,
right,
I'll do it. And he did. And we made some real good progress. And all of a sudden, headhunters are calling me and saying, are you interested in applying in this job as dean? I'm like, me? Dean? And it was kind of intoxicating. And that little bit of authority, a little bit of power to make change,
right,
was great. I felt like I was really making a difference, and not because I've been talking about using more effective teaching techniques for years, and no one's listening because I'm not in charge of anybody. And so,
not the Socratic method or something.
Get rid of the Socratic method. It just doesn't work. It's fun, and it's a good thing to do to teach professionalism and
it's not great for
reporting.
everybody. It's great for some people, I think.
Well, and it's great for some things, but after the first year, very limited.
Right.
But people using it throughout the entire spectrum. But if you want people to remember what you're learning, that's not it. You know.
Yeah. I mean, it's a different. You're teaching a different lesson than the material.
That's right. And if I was teaching torts today, I would still use the Socratic method, but just more sparingly than most people do, because I think it's important for their development as lawyers.
Right.
So, the first year I was a complete bust on the dean search thing. No one was interested in me. And the next year I had a few schools interested. And this is my favorite story about Cooley. And I'm so sorry this is going on forever, Charlie.
You're fine.
What they do is if your school's looking for a dean, they generally have what they call airport interviews. They kind of stopped doing that during COVID. They bring everybody into an airport hotel, and interview you. And mine was supposed to be an hour and a half, and it was in Detroit. And I showed up, and they keep you sequestered from everybody else, so nobody knows who else is there.
Right.
And my other ones had 7 or like 11 people. I got to the Cooley one, it was like 20-something people. They brought people from Western Michigan.
People from Cooley
The school,
are interviewing you.
Yes.
Right.
And so I went in, and it's supposed to be an hour and a half. And right away, I felt a kind of rapport, and I did my homework.
Who are you? Can you tell me who's on that panel?
Frank Aiello, who was the faculty chair at the time, who's now at MSU. He's he's working for the dean as his.
Don LeDuc, probably.
Don LeDuc was not there.
Oh, okay.
Don LeDuc was being replaced.
Okay.
Kathy Conklin, a number of faculty members, Paul Zelinsky, a lot of the heavy hitters there, and a couple people from the faculty at Western Michigan, because they wanted them to chime in on it. And so I started talking, and I felt very comfortable, and I had done my homework, and I looked up everybody. So I was able to call them by name, and
that's a great technique.
And and I would I don't know, for whatever reason, I felt like I was on stage, and I had laughed.
Now you're in the drama class,
That's
right?
right, exactly right. And I had a great time. I was just laughing, and then they said, "Well, I'm afraid we're going to have to break this up." And it felt like 15 or 20 minutes. I'm like, "Oh, maybe too much fun."
Yeah.
I screwed up. So I walked out, and the headhunter goes, "How did it go?" I said, "I thought it was going so well, but then they just stopped it." So they had to stop it because you're a half an hour over. We're going to lunch. I'm like, "What?" I was shocked, and I didn't wait for the other schools to reject or accept me. I just said, "You know what? I'm not interested in pursuing this. If I don't get this job, I'm not going to be a dean."
Yeah. And you don't even care whether you get it, right? Because
Not
you're just
really.
happy.
Still have a great job.
You're happy you did a great job. You felt like you did the way you wanted to,
Yeah,
right?
It's true. Yeah, and the other interviews were like, I felt like the Socratic method. I felt like they were trying to trip me up. And this school, they're here, they're just trying to get to know me. I'm like, I like these people, yeah.
And so when would that have been? That
would have been 2018.
And they offer you the job?
And 2019.
Had you been to Lansing?
They fly you out for the faculty to meet you and everybody else. So I think they picked three or four, probably 3. I'm not supposed to know who they were, but it came out eventually. Other candidates, and you meet everybody at each of the campuses. It was kind of crazy.
Okay.
And then the board decided they want to see us all one more time again. So I've been there a couple of times. And as soon as they decided, then they fly your family out to see if your family wants to live in this town. And that was almost a deal breaker for Anthony because he's lived in Texas not his whole life, but most of his life. He lived in California for a short time.
What does he do?
He works for the U.S. government. At the time, he worked for HHS. He's a data analyst.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he's a PhD, and he also teaches part-time.
So at the time you come to work for Cooley, how many campuses are there?
4, down from 5. And plus a little...
How big is the school?
1,200 students.
Yeah. And
down from almost 4,000.
Yeah.
And still bleeding. So because the admission standards were dropped to try to just meet the old standard instead of trying to beat the old standard.
Right.
Because we had so many campuses we had to keep open.
Right.
That's what the prior administration was doing. I just said, this is not going to work. We need to shrink the school and right size it for the future. The demand of legal education is never coming back. I think the reason they did that was they thought the demand will be back in a couple of years and everything will work out.
It cycles.
So it's the first thing the board and I needed to do was to close a couple of campuses. We didn't need them. We argued over which ones. But at the time, Tampa was doing really well. As a matter of fact, Tampa was operating in the black. The other schools were all losing millions.
Yeah.
And Don LeDuc had really set me up with a large endowment. And I told the board when I was interviewing, I said, I don't know what everybody else is promising you, but I'm going to promise you I'm going to be operating at a significant deficit for at least 3 years. And they said, no one else is promising that. I said, well, and I remind them, I said, not only did I fulfill my promise, I overperformed. But we spent a lot of it down. But our bar pass rate, as you know, is now in compliance with the ABA standards.
Yeah, so coming from a drama guy on the accounting part of it, hey, we're going to spend all your money.
Yeah.
Can't be super exciting to a board.
I get that. But I wanted them to know that that's what's going to happen. Because if I take the job and they're like, what are you doing with all of our money? Then I was going to be out.
Right.
So I really wanted them to know this is what's going to take. And, did I make some mistakes? Sure. No really big ones in my mind. But, if I had it to do over differently, I would have not had a global pandemic interrupt me, number one.
Right.
But I would have probably spent more sooner. I was trying to make sure I had money left for the end. And I think I could have gotten a turnaround quicker, but it all worked out.
So Cooley is in downtown Lansing.
Yeah.
Originated down there, right? Mm-hmm. You have how many students in downtown Lansing?
Right now, I think we've got about 250.
And how many professors?
At that campus, I think we have 15.
I don't remember what it was like in 2018 downtown, but it was at one time in the early teens, 20 teens, was a entertainment hotspot.
Yeah, it was. And people, I've gone to some Chamber of Commerce meetings. People blame me. It's like,
well, I think my brother had a bar down there, and there's no question that Cooley was a significant generator of the entertainment and the bars doing well. And once it started to contract, there was just it killed a lot of businesses.
It's true.
And then of course the pandemic with the state employees.
That's the death knell for a lot of places.
And talk about is it the Higher Learning Commission or the state bar or the ABA? Which one is it that monitors the credentialing at Cooley?
So they both do. So most law schools do not need anything other than the ABA because they're part of a university which has like a Higher Learning Commission.
Right.
But we got that so we could offer master's degrees.
Okay.
And so we maintain that. We suspended our master's programs because they're not moneymakers, but we still believe that they provide a valuable service. So we may do it in the future. So we're just going through our HLC site visit reports right now. So we're going to maintain our HLC accreditation. We were never out of compliance with them.
I'm familiar with the
ABA.
Well, no. the Higher Learning
Oh,
Commission through my work at LCC.
oh yeah.
So they would have to credential us and look at all the credentials of the professors and the pass rates, and we
Yeah.
were constantly. I think they do it every 2 years or maybe every year, and obviously, depending on who's in charge of that, we, as a board member, we are constantly advised one way or another as to the status. But the rumors about Cooley were it wasn't going to be around. It wasn't going to survive the credentialing, right?
That's exactly right. That's what I've been fighting against the whole time.
And
So we have a good relationship with the HLC. Prior to my getting there, we had a very adversarial relationship with the ABA Council. Cooley felt it was necessary to actually sue them a couple of times, and they actually won a couple of times as well. So it was very contentious, and I've tried to make it more of a partnership going forward. Like, I agree the standards are in place for a good reason, and we're just gonna work on meeting them. We're not gonna worry about the fact that we had these fights in the past. One of the reasons Cooley had to fight was because of our 3 full semesters. It didn't fit the reporting schedules that the ABA had set
Right.
up, and so it made us look bad on some things. And
3
missed other
semesters
things.
for to get through your first year or your second year, as opposed to 2 semesters like most traditional law schools, right?
No, actually, so there are 3 full semesters of 15 credits. So if you wanted to, you could graduate in 2 years.
Oh, I got you.
But most people don't. But some people do, and some of our top performers do it in 2
And they
years.
were critical of that
Yeah.
process.
It's not that they're critical of that process. It's just that the reporting schedules didn't match up
I
with
got
what
you.
they're looking at. So our numbers looked skewed. And so that's part of the problem.
I graduated in 7 semesters
Oh, good job.
from Cooley.
Yeah.
I went 10, 10, 10.
Nice.
And I sort of had a what I consider to be an established GPA,
Yeah.
and I figured, okay, I can take more credits now, and one class or one, is not going to kill my GPA because it's a weighted average, obviously.
That's right.
And then, I did better. I mean, with more work,
Yeah.
and I worked the whole time, and the more I took on, I think my last semester I had 18 credits, and I was
Aye.
working about 30. But you're taking electives,
Right,
so
things you
it's
wanna be-
different. Some things can get done before the end of the semester, but so I get the sort of 6. Mine was 7. But once I was sort of secured that I was going to graduate, I wanted to do it as soon as I could.
I don't blame you. Well, and I mean, that's how Cooley started. Was
Right.
he had a part-time program where you kept going. You worked and you went to school at night, and it was very successful. It became a more traditional law school, but still having that flexible scheduling. I think we try to maintain that. We had so many different schedules at one point. Like, you could take up to 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
And we had to stop that because we realized that it's too long, and people had forgotten what happened in the first year and second year, and that's where all the bar tests.
Yeah.
So,
Did you ever meet Tom Brennan?
no, he died just before I got there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've known him for a long time and his family. But tell me, you're sort of on the ropes, right? And you have these rumors with the ABA, and apparently you're in litigation with them.
No, we're not now.
No, but you were,
were. Oh, yes.
right?
Oh, yes.
Right. I mean, it's a battle, and obviously, you get the national stuff. I mean, I don't have a timeline, but we have Michael Cohen, who went to law school
Yes.
with my brother, and people are saying the lawyer from California, is saying Cooley's the worst law school in America. I mean, you have to deal with all that, right?
I do.
And how do you, as a, whether you call it the dean or the president, but the school's leader, very dynamic in a bad way, right? You
Right.
got a lot of things going on, and somehow, you got to stick your head to the ground, and you can't take the tests for the students, right?
No, you probably don't want me taking the test for the students. Here's what I say about all of that. Cooley has had some amazing innovations in legal education. They've done things that other people had never done before, like making all legal writing professors tenure track, like hybrid education where you can take part of your class online. There's a Cooley was the first to do that, and those flexible scheduling options were really at the core of making legal education accessible to more people. And so, a lot of good there. All right, did Cooley make some missteps along the way? I would say yes. They wanted to be the biggest law school in America. I don't personally see the value in that. You could say we want more people to have access, but I think there's better ways of doing that than to just keep growing like we did. Because eventually, by opening so many campuses in Michigan, we satisfied the pent-up demand for legal education in Grand Rapids.
Right.
We satisfied it in Ann Arbor. And so the schools start to shrink and they become unmanageable. They can't support themselves. And now, with a lot of schools offering a complete online education, you don't have to move to law school if you don't want to. So we had to shift for the future of law school. We still believe it's important to be present in law school at least the first year. And so we don't have a completely online program, but we're not ruling it out for the future either.
What was the single biggest issue with the ABA, the bar passage rate?
That is the single issue. Yes.
Right.
And
I think that's a fair criticism, right? Because ultimately, most people are not going to law school not to pass the bar, right?
Most people don't do it as an academic pursuit, although probably 2 or 3% do, but that's not right. Yeah, no, it was fair. The only thing unfair about it is they changed the standard overnight, and then you had to start meeting that standard immediately. Cooley had admitted 3 years of students who were expected to meet the old standard. So it took all those people had to graduate. And they said, well, you should be able to do that in 3 years then. I said, well, no, because 70% of our students are part-time. They're not getting out in 3 years. And then the pandemic hit, slowed a lot of people down. Also hurt other people's ability to learn because they had, their lives were all upset. They lost their jobs. They had food insecurity. So it slowed us down quite a bit, but we got there. We're at the standard we need to be at. And now my goal is like 80%, 85%. Let's keep raising it.
And do I understand correctly that if you're after your first year, you can take online law school classes?
You can. There's a limit to how many you can take.
Right.
But we offer it for electives that you can take online. And once in a while, we'll offer a class online just so that we can satisfy curricular requirements. Like, we don't have enough students in either campus, but we have enough with both campuses.
Right.
So we'll offer it online in that case. But we have to be very careful. It used to be no more than a certain percentage could be online and meet the ABA standards. But now it's been increased up to 50%. So we're not worried about that.
And in downtown Lansing, are you no longer using the library as a building facility?
We are not. It's been on the market for a while.
I see that.
In 2020, we moved the library into the ground floor and the basement of the Cooley Center. And so complete renovation there.
And it's a beautiful building where you're currently operating out of,
we
right?
love it, yeah.
And where do you see, if we can say we're on the other side of, whatever probation would be, where do you see Cooley going?
So, we've done a bunch of things in the past 6 years, and one of the things we've done is to rebrand Cooley. And that doesn't just mean putting pins on people or changing our logos. It really means focusing on our mission and what we're doing and really redirecting the school for the future. And that rebranding is resonating with potential law students. So our enrollment was dipping until this last year when it went up almost 100%. And I think it's a lot to do with the rebranding. Number two, we modernized our scholarship. We did it data-based. I think we were losing a lot of students we weren't offering enough money to. I think we were giving too much money to some students we didn't have to. But we optimized our scholarship offers by using data. And that's turned out to be really great. Now, law school applications are up nationwide, but only like 26%. and we're up to almost 100%.
What do you attribute that to?
To the rebranding?
It used to be attributed to L.A. Law, L.A. McBeal, the TV shows that drove them to want to be a lawyer. I mean, what do you attribute the, I guess, interest in going to law school?
The other thing that brings people to law school is a downturn in the economy.
Right.
So I think that's part of it. I think a lot of people, like during the like 2020, 2021, we had a lot of civil unrest. I think that people's idea of social justice brings people in as well. I think the fact that everything's super political right now brings people to the law as well. So all of those things. I'm not sure which is the most important.
How important is the success of downtown Lansing to the success of Cooley?
I think it would make my life a little easier and it'd be more fun for our students, but I think it's the other way around. I think once we get I don't think we're ever going to be that big downtown anymore, but if we could get it up to I think where I want it to be is around 350 to 400 students, and we're on our way there, and I think we'll be there in a year or two. But if we ended up being 500-600 students, I think Cooley could really help be part of the driving force for helping Lansing, recover.
People don't think about downtown Lansing and being sort of a educational mecca, but we do have Davenport.
That's true.
We do have Cooley. We do have Lansing Community College, and I'm probably missing
beautiful campus too. Lansing
yeah, I'm probably missing something else, but that is a lot of drivers of the downtown area that we don't think about. What it can do.
That's true
for downtown Lansing.
I think we've heard rumors that MSU is also looking to perhaps.
Wouldn't that be great?
That'd be really great. I wish they would take a look at our library.
What is your prototypical student that you're looking for?
So, first of all, we're open to any student that's really interested in law. But where we really do well is with second career people, and people who have started something and want to make a change, because we offer that flexibility still. I think more and more we're getting more traditional law students as well, because, we're improving and we're more attractive to more people.
We have a law clerk. I think we have 2 law clerks here that go to Cooley, but on sort of the traditional, went to college, graduated from Michigan State, going to Cooley.
Cool.
And I don't agree with the 20 hours that you can work, but
that's been lifted, by the way.
Has it?
Yeah.
Because I don't know that anybody has ever come to work here that was in law school that hasn't gotten better grades. And, we almost demand it of them, but it does cause interference with their social life. I mean, you can't do all 3. You can't work, go to law school, and have a social life. But
yeah, that's so true.
We're way over our time.
I know. Sorry. By the way, can I just say thank you to the Abood family? I think we were the last graduation where we had in Abood. He was talking about how many people in your family, some not named Abood by marriage, have gone to Cooley. And I don't think any family can match yours.
I remember. I started in '87. I graduated in 1990, and at the time, I think 89-ish, 80, 88, 89, we would walk in, myself, my 3 older siblings, and my younger brother to my dad.
Wow.
And he would have to write out the tuition checks. And, it's interesting what we remember, and it was $250 a credit hour, and I think they raised it to $260 when I was there, and all the students were going crazy, and it had the scholarship thing where depending on your GPA, you got the discount. So I had a 3.4 or something.
Nice.
So I think my entire law school cost $9,000.
Okay, let's just keep that between us. The prices are crazy.
But what I would say, what I've learned from this is that your career is exactly the type of person that Cooley is looking for. I mean, nobody could speak to the students more, really. And I can't even say it's your law school, your education was a second career, because it might have been a third career. I mean, activist, a serviceman. You know,
I feel like it was really my first career.
yeah.
Because all the other stuff was just getting me there. You know what I mean?
But your story really should be promoted more. I don't know what Carmen's doing over there, but she should be getting out. It's an amazing story, really. And Lansing and Cooley is lucky to have you. And I mean,
Thanks.
My dad always said it's never a bad time to become a lawyer. And everybody I talk to now, I tell this is the best time ever to go to law school because what?
Send them.
Yeah, it's the only time. My son, he didn't go to Cooley, but he went to the University of Miami down in Miami on a full ride.
a great school.
When I went to law school, that was besides Cooley's GPA scholarship. I never heard of anybody getting a full ride, and we hear about it all the time now. So. I appreciate you coming on the show. This has been great. These guys got a lot of work to do.
I'm sorry. You're going to have to get that all down to 7 minutes, right?